God. And e pluribus unum means we're all one, and we're one in this sort of divine mind. We're all one in this godlike sense. So we all have these abilities. We just have to discover and find them. And as we rediscover and continue to rediscover, we will begin to have an era of great human enlightenment. That was the belief. And that's why George Washington is depicted as ascending into heaven, basically. Fascinating, isn't it? It's fascinating. But it's very true. There's been lots of books written about it. I mentioned the Lost Key, and Dan Brown. If you've ever read his books, he steeps much of what he talks about in his different stories of Robert Langdon. He steeps them in very real research. And this is, very really what was going on at the time. Freemasonry is the oldest and most powerful secret society in the history of the world. Had planted firm roots in early day America and even played a significant role in the American Revolution. It played an even greater role in the subsequent French Revolution, which initially was greeted with great joy and approval in the Masonic United States. The number of Masonic lodges grew and membership increased. By 1826, it was estimated that Masons in the United States numbered nearly 50,000, mostly educated and professional men. But in that year, one Mason broke ranks. It became known that a Captain William Morgan of Batavia, New York, was planning to publish a book revealing the secret symbols, handshakes, oaths, and purposes of the Freemasons. Morgan, a 30-year member of the order, wrote, "The bane of our civil institutions is to be found in Masonry, already powerful and daily becoming more so. I owe my country an exposure of its dangers." Before the book could be printed, Morgan and his publisher were kidnapped in Batavia. Irate friends and neighbors pursued the kidnappers and managed to rescue the publisher, but Morgan was not so fortunate. He was never seen again. Years later, a Mason named Henry L. Valence confided to his doctor as he lay dying that he and 2 other Masons had dropped Morgan into the Niagara River. Valence said since that night he had suffered from a guilty conscience, the mark of Cain. So that's an interesting sideline here about the goings-on of early colonial America and the role that Masonry played in it. Now, the Masonic tradition has largely faded into something that's more of an Elks Club kind of thing, but there are those who still hold the traditions and the beliefs of Masonry. But the designs of the buildings that were created in Washington are also very influenced by this Masonic approach that the founding fathers had. And it's interesting because as we discover more about our abilities, as we delve more into things like mindfulness and meditation, we begin to understand that there's more to us than we've been led to believe. We are transforming. And we see this idea as being talked about a lot in popular media. If you look at the popularity of superhero movies, for instance, these superhero movies, they're gods. They're men who have transformed into gods. Early on, we see less of it now, but early on, I'd say about 10 years ago, there was a theme that was running through a lot of popular TV shows and movies. One big one you might remember was a show called Heroes. And these stories were about, regular everyday people who suddenly stumble across their own great abilities, and then begin to figure out how to use them. So it's this process of finding what they are, and then finding how they work, and then finding the best way to use them, and incorporating that into the life that they're used to. And that has expanded into this superhero genre that has become phenomenally big and successful. And now this idea of actually transforming into gods is something that's being played with in these stories. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is a superhero movie, part of the Marvel Universe. It came out this summer. Talks about that very thing. About being a god and creating. One of the characters' father is actually that kind of a being, and discovers that he is that being too. So you see this theme being played out quite a bit. Neil Gaiman's novel American Gods is also a discussion about what are our gods, and what does belief mean, and what part of us is intertwined in that belief. So you see these themes being played out, and the idea, the understanding that the founding fathers had. In creating this country was to give a platform, a place where people could be free enough to evolve, to have that apotheosis, to become, to have their, to access the greatness of their abilities. We the people. E pluribus unum. Now, granted, there were quite a few caveats to all men are created equal, which maybe we'll talk about next time. Because originally, when the Founding Fathers wrote that in the Declaration of Independence, well, actually, we the people is from the preamble of the Constitution. But when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, that does say all men are created equal. What they meant by men was actually men who were landowners. If you didn't own land, then you weren't really included in that idea of men who were created equal. It was a stepping stone, and it took a long time. And the idea of land of the free and home of the brave, I think, in many ways, is more aspirational. But the country continues to become greater as time goes on. We've come from such narrow-minded viewpoints, such oppressive systems, such as slavery and the subjugation of women, and we've become something that transcends that. And I think that the founding fathers wanted this country to be that platform, ever evolving, by the way, as humans evolved and learned to be godlike. Okay. Well, I've gone way over my time limit here, but I felt it was an important topic to talk about. Hopefully it gave you some things to ponder. Have a wonderful week.